Hello, you fucks. Welcome to John Solo's Beer Brigade. I'm John Solo. You are not Jane. It's working. I got your yoo-hoo message. I got it. I just, there's a lot of work that goes into show prep. I was just telling my guest, I got to pull up their website 5 minutes beforehand just to see what they're all about. But really, everything's fine here. We're all, how are you? Everybody good? All right. So what is that in my, you ever reach down and feel something bulky in your pocket and not know what it is? Just happened to me. It's L3. L3 is hanging out in there. Normally I don't bring them in the booth, but her, and we're getting gender correct here, her, but it is what it is. So anyways, let me tell you what's happening today, and then I'll explain what's happening the rest of the week, and then we'll get to our guest. First off, I'm not doing shit today. Actually, I kind of am. I'm finishing up little Kelly Fox's book, which is fantastic, by the way. I've got the mastering up on that, and I've been fiddling in the background with this whole project management shit I told you about earlier this week, and that's about it. Other than that's fun for me. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm taking the day off. Then tomorrow we're getting into little Patty Logan's book. Blood Red Moon Pie, something like that. It's fantastic, I'm sure. And I think that I have to narrate in a weird accent too, which is always a lot of fun. Friday, we got the Ramblin' Gremlin show coming up again. And remember, little Lissa Gramling is now broadcasting from her new bunker. They got a new place out in South Carolina, and she looks very excited and a lot more warm. Then on Sunday, again, of course, we got the morning coffee show. Now, everybody knows now we've changed the morning coffee slot to 11 a.m. instead of 10 a.m. That's because I'm lazy. But 11 a.m. it is, and that's going to be our regular time slot from now on. But yeah, I think that's about it. We're doing good around here. I'm going to bring up my guest. Now, before I do this, everybody, if you haven't, this gentleman and I met at GRL last year, and I had him on the show when we were doing the GRL Live Talk to the Beards. If you got kids watching, or don't just kick him out of the room right now. I get the feeling that some of this might not be safe for work. Mom, you're going to do whatever the fuck you want to do. If you want to watch this, watch it. But just understand he's probably words like cock and ass and stuff are going to be involved. So anyways, here we go. I'm going to bring on my guest. It is the great, fantabulous Shane Morton. How the hell are you, Shane?
Hello.
Hello.
Cock.
You didn't.
Yeah, I'm good.
You didn't grow your beard out for this? What the fuck's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, I also didn't shave for quite a few days.
It's so obvious.
Felt, felt like being a scruffy nerf herder, you know.
Is that, you have a Scandinavian background, Nordic? Is that what you are? You got the hair, I don't really know. No.
I'm just a mutt.
So
I think I'm English, but who knows?
yeah, I can't track have you ever done that rabbit hole? Have you ever gone down the genealogy thing before?
I had an aunt and uncle that did it when we were in when I was really young, and they put out some kind of book that they gave to all of the different families. And I did kind of glance at it. I know I'm kind of English, but I can't find the book now, and everyone's dead, so so I'll never find it.
I find it's fascinating in a way, and because I'm a mutt completely, and my father's, well, okay, here we go. So the person that raised my father was not my father's father. My father's actual real, like, blood genetic father. He never met him. He died in a knife fight in a bar in Kentucky, like 2 months before he was born. That's the story. Now, we don't know if that's actually true or not. He doesn't know, really. He's tried to track it down, but apparently there was some fire with records. The gentleman was in the World War II, and so he can't figure it out. So that side of the family, we really don't fucking know. He was a drifter. Grandma was loose. I'm not sure how that worked. So on that side, it gets difficult. On my mother's side, it's kind of the same deal. The people that raised my mom weren't her real parents. We can track down her real parents, and we've met them. We know who they are, but their family's kind of fucked up too. So I can go back about 2 generations, and then I don't know, fuck knows. So it always fascinates me.
Have you ever tried to and the one side sounds like you probably can't do that, but on the other side, have you ever gone down where you put all your information in and all the names that you know, and I forgot what it's called, the genealogy tracker thing.
Yeah, it's like genealogy.com. My father-in-law is
Yeah.
really into that sort of thing. I have not. Apparently, my father, before he passed, he started to try and track down some of these details, and he came to a dead end and kind of gave up. But I have not. What kind of interests me too, have you ever done one of those? You can do like I think it's a blood test where they tell you
Oh
kind of
yeah.
what your DNA is. I've wanted to do one of those too. Have you ever tried one of them?
So I have not. However, my nephew did one, and he now lives in South Carolina, and he discovered that we have a first cousin that lives like 20 minutes away from him, according to that. And I was like, well, one of our uncles had an affair. Wonder which one it was. Because we've never heard of this person, like it was but he actually knew who his father was and all of that, and just had been a secret the entire
Huh.
time. And that was all because of the blood thing. So,
I, I kind of want to do it. There's another side of the blood thing too that you get. I am I'm trying to be healthy in my life. I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I was not for most of my life, but I've been sober coming on 6 years, and I've gotten healthy and lost a lot of weight and all that. And I kind of want to know like the genetic makeup and my DNA and all this, so I can figure out, like should I be taking extra vitamin D just because I'm genetically predisposed to not have enough of it, that sort of deal. And they can
yeah.
tell you that shit too. They can tell you whether, you shouldn't eat bread, stuff like that. It really helps there. Or you're going to
That
die
would
of a
be
heart
the
attack.
worst thing.
You
Don't
know what?
eat bread. I would die.
I have not had bread, sugar, gluten, or even any like vegetable oil, anything like that in almost 3 weeks now. I do the no sugar thing quite a bit, but and the no bread thing quite a bit too. But I've not had any of those things. My wife and I are trying an autoimmune diet thing, and it's not bad, except they put those peanut butter cups like right at so you can't go to the store. Don't go.
I know. Don't you can't look at the candy aisle when
Mm.
you're walking by trying to pay. You just can't do
Mm.
it.
No, no, it doesn't work out very well. So, in my vast show prep that I went through to talk to you today, and I mentioned this before, but this one intrigued me. You wrote a book called "The Year of the Cock." Please tell me about this story.
So the Year of the Cock is a does does anyone know like do you like musical theater at all?
I'm straight. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
Okay, well still. I mean, come on.
no, no. I wish I did.
Not
I'm sure
even a
there's a
little
lot of good
Stephen
stuff there.
Sondheim joke.
I know it's a
Um
spectrum, but no. But I
so
assume
there's
you do.
this. Yeah, I do. I was actually a musical theater performer for 15 years. It paid my bills before I moved to Los Angeles.
Nice.
Um, so musical theater has always been like a big part of my life, right? And there's this show called Company, which is about a bachelor that is afraid of commitment, and it's him and all of his groups of friends that are all paired up. So he's always the third wheel. So I kind of thought about what that would be like um, uh, in West Hollywood here in California, if there was this gay man that was scared of commitment. He was a commitment phobe, and the entire story is told from his friend's perspective. All of his different groups of friends, and each chapter takes place on a different holiday where he spends that time with his friends, and it's watching this man be an um, epic failure because he can't, even when things start going right for him, he has to fuck it up. He has to try to ruin his friends' relationships because even though he doesn't mean to do it, it's just everything he touches goes to crap. And it's kind of him learning how to become a person that he feels worthy of so that he can actually uh, embrace the relationship that he's always been keeping at hand's distance. And he does, he goes to therapy, goes to a sex therapist, goes to um, uh, a priest, everything that he can to try to solve himself. It's a steamy little thing, but it's also fun, and I like the way that it's told from not from really his perspective. He only narrates 3 chapters, all of the other chapters are narrated by his friends. So, and it's kind of how they're having to cope with his choices. So it's kind
Now,
of, it is a romance, but it's a little bit more out there in terms of the way it's written instead of kind of the normal one-in-one main character speak. So
that's very, you know what? I've
it's
narrated
twisty.
I've done 300 books in this genre, and I don't think I've ever run into a book that's written quite from that kind of perspective. Now, obviously, the gay man that's commitment phobic, yeah, I've seen that one. But the narration twist of having chapters narrated by his friends, their perspective looking
Yeah.
in, that's actually a pretty cool idea. Where did you come up with that one?
I just felt like that he couldn't tell his own story. You know, like if he told his story, it wasn't going to be there. It wasn't reliable because he didn't know who he was yet. So the story is told from his friends and his ex-lovers. There's like, I think there's like 10 different narrators throughout the book.
Dude, that is
So
awesome.
it's a pretty long book because of
Well,
what it is.
cock, yeah, I got that.
Well, you know, you
That's
want
a,
your cock to be as long as it possibly can.
you know,
Sometimes.
I've had many a debate on this because I mean, you know, I'm just a normal guy, and you know, you'd think I was a front man in a rock band for years. You'd think but yeah, I'm just normal. So I had this debate for years and years and years. And my best friend, who's a writer, we were talking, and every one of her books, well, not everyone, she did one just because we had this conversation, features a man with a large cock, at least one of them. And I'm very close to her, and we're just friends, so I'm able to have these conversations. And women really want big cocks, and she said, "No, John, they don't. It's not something, you know. She calls, and by the way, she's not even into men, but she says that there's the what was how'd she put it, the boyfriend size, like the perfect zone of not too big and not too small, and that's what you kind of want to land on, so to speak. But then I said, well, why do you write books about men with huge cocks then? Like, if that's not what women really want, why are you? And she said, well, because people buy books with huge cocks, which makes perfect
Yeah.
sense, by the way.
It,
So then I put this out to the crowd, and I asked the crowd, and I said, hey, do you all want huge cocks? And, you know, most of them, except for this girl named Cheryl, but most of them said, no, it's not really something that we're into all, you know. But and I said, well, why are you reading these books with huge cocks in it? They said it's because the authors write books with huge cocks in it. So if we could just get these two to communicate, my life would be easier, is what I'm trying to say.
yeah. Uh, I write a lot of huge cocks too. It, it's like the romance book cock. I don't know. It's not real life. It's fiction, and everything's larger in fiction, including the size of the dicks, apparently. So
Well, in leaky things going on, like the do you ever, when you're writing, do you ever write this term in it? It was leaking like a fountain. Do you ever use that one before?
I don't think I've ever quite used that one, but yes, there's a lot of leaky cocks in romance. I've
It's
never
been.
seen so many leaky cocks. I don't know.
I was very confused at first because, to be honest with you, and I don't mean to get too personal here, but my cock does not leak. It's just, it doesn't. I've never once been like, shit, I'm wet. It's just, it doesn't. So I asked my best friend about this, and she made the comparison because obviously, not all by any means, but a large portion of the romance crowd are female, and that they do in fact get wet, and that the comparison was, it was trying to relate to them getting, so it was like something they could relate to in there. That was I don't,
I
yeah,
don't know. I don't know,
philosophical.
actually. I don't really write that very often. I have written like uh the whole pre-cum thing. I mean, I have gone there, but I don't go there very often because it is also not my experience. I'm not wet right now. Like I'm good.
I just checked just to make sure, and then I was like, "Well, I am," but then I just spilled tea on myself. Was all it was.
Ah.
Yeah, so I was confused for. Sorry, I didn't mean to go down this leaky large cock rabbit hole early on, but no, that's where we went with it.
Don't make me
What
choke.
well, I don't think there's a danger of that, Shane. How's when we last talked, you were are you're now full time at this? Is that correct? Or are you? I know you're still doing the day job, kind of, but you're going to make the
Yeah.
jump. Is that? Are
Well,
you?
it, I mean, it's still a thought in my head. I have not made the jump. I probably will not make the jump for a little while. Even if I felt like I could. I've been at my job for a long time. It's a union job, and I have a really great pension and a you know 501.
Mhm.
I have it all, so I'm kind of like, well, how much long? I can last a little while longer.
Are you completely working from home right now?
No, I'm back in the office because I work for a theater and we've had
Mhm.
shows open since September. So I'm kind of home every now and then, but for the most part, I'm in the office. I didn't like working from home, honestly. So
What is are you SAG-AFTRA? Is that the union that you're in with the theater, or is it another one?
no, so it's IATSE is the theater one, but I actually work for the Music Center, which is I don't know. They have a lot of the different unions there, but not SAG-AFTRA.
Okay.
And I'm IATSE, so
That's I know a lot of the actors, even a lot of the theater actors, are in the Screen Actors Guild. Like myself as an audiobook producer, I'm in the
yeah.
Screen Actors Guild. I didn't want to go that route, to be honest with you. The union thing kind of I don't like. I rebel against everything. I don't like any large. I've never worked for a corporation in my life. I worked a shit ton of day jobs, but never for a large corporation. It was always smaller companies, kind of thing. So anything like that, where I'm tied into a large entity, just gives me the willies. I'm just not about it. But turns out, if you want to have health insurance in America, it really does help quite a bit.
It
There
does
is that.
help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave up
Uh,
all my other unions. I mean, why am I paying? I'm not using them. I'm not doing my actors union. I'm not acting any longer, so I
mhm.
don't why pay the dues for something I'm not using? So
Well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Somebody just asked, when is the Drag Queen Mysteries #5 coming out?
number 5 just came out. It
Ta-da!
came out on the 11th. Sailors, Strangulation, and Sunscreen came out last Friday.
You have the best titles, dude. I was looking through some of those. Uh,
And it's back
um,
to the fun with that book, I promise.
Men, Murder, Makeup, Divas, Death and Drag, Himbos, Homicide and Heels. Did we talk about Himbos, Homicide and Heels before? What's a,
Yeah, those. I think the first 3 books were out when we did our GRL thing. So
yeah, and I remember that, but didn't you? Here, just for the kids at home here, tell me what a himbo is.
a himbo is a hot boy that might not have too much going on upstairs.
Oh shit. What is it when you don't have too much going on upstairs and you're not very hot? What? Because that's
Uh,
a narrator. That's what.
or a writer sometimes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Dude, you're getting some good looking covers going on here too. Um, the club
Yeah, thanks.
that one looks no,
Uh,
yeah. Who do you use?
Lex Valentine makes most of my covers for me, actually.
Yeah, those are really good. Especially a couple of them. Adorkable, especially. That's a good looking cover right there. And a great name for a book, by the way, too. Sorry, I didn't mean to get distracted. I was scrolling through. I know your website isn't completely up to date like
It's an
anything else. So it's really,
autobiography.
yeah. Well, actually, I liked your about Shane section. I'm sorry.
Oh
Yeah, there we
God.
go. About Shane. Well, it's pretty, and you have a fantastic picture up there. It's like you with a bunch of shit laying on the ground. You've got some funky looking socks on, and you're drinking like you kind of got the wine and it's kind of like it's very casual. I like it a lot. It's really good. It's a good picture.
That was
But
that was a poster for a cabaret show I did called Ginger in the City.
really,
Yeah.
um, I feel bad that I'm not in the musical theater because I mean, there's a lot of good shit in there. I just really, for one, I live around Columbus, Ohio, but when I was a kid, there wasn't. I lived in a cornfield like 50 miles north of Columbus, so there wasn't a whole lot of theater going on. Um, And I'm a vocalist. I'm a singer. I've been a professional musician for years. I don't really do it much anymore. I still sing occasionally though. But I mean, I got some chops. I can do my thing. But I never did. I know you got into it in high school, and got into it.
Yeah.
Now you're still in the theater. Why aren't you performing anymore? You just get tired of it, or you getting old, or what's happening?
I got oh, gee, a little bit of all. No, I when I moved to LA, I subletted my apartment in New York, and I moved here because my boyfriend of 1 year at the time wanted to come to LA, and I didn't have a reason to say no. So I was like, I'll give you a year. If I don't like it, I'll move back to New York, and we can, cut and run and know that we tried. But unless you want to come back to New York, and I moved to LA, and the weather is amazing. I wasn't crowded on a subway. Um, and so I just kind of stayed and then never really acted again. uh, and I kept thinking I would go back into it. And I did a couple films and really didn't enjoy it. I just thought I didn't like all the standing around and waiting. And um, so I just kind of decided. And then when I took this job, I mean, it was kind of like a career job. You can't, it was a definite 40 hours, sometimes 50 hours a week, depending on how many shows we had. And I just decided I was fine where I was. And I break out my tap shoes once a year, typically, sometimes twice a year, and do like a one-man show. And that's been enough. And now I don't even do that. I'm too lazy. It's too much work.
Well,
God.
and not everybody has the bug. I mean, I have the acting bug. I can't, even if they didn't, here, maybe I should say this just to you. Even if they didn't pay me, I would probably still be acting. I love it. I love what I do, and
Yeah.
and audiobooks are a really unique um, uh, way to do acting because I get to do so many different things, and every week it's something different. So I love it. But not everybody has a bug. It sounds like you kind of work the bug out of your system, and you don't got it anymore. So it's all good.
Yeah, well, there's not really a place to even if I had it. I mean, you would think Los Angeles, right? You would be like, oh, wow. But, there's really not. I mean, there's no community theater. There's a lot of small theater that wants you to then sell the tickets to be a part of the show. And like, I'm not doing that shit, so if I wanted to do theater, I would have to drive outside Los Angeles, and I'm inherently lazy these days. So the thought of working an 8-hour day and then uh, going to rehearsal and all that, like, it's just too much fucking work. I don't want to do that
Yeah,
shit anymore. I'm,
I
I'm
get it.
52 years old and tired.
Well, I have a little community theater not more than a half a mile from me, just right down the road. And I'm out in the country, so it's kind of a unique thing, and it's a really good one. And my wife and I, every few months, it'll come up, hey, they're doing auditions down there again. And I would love to. I've never been in a play in my life. I was not an actor until I started doing audiobooks, and this is where I learned. But I would love to do something like that. But again, I'm busy. That actually brings me to
Yeah.
one of the crowd asked the question, have you ever considered narrating audiobooks?
uh, I mean, I did think about it when I first started thinking about putting my books in audio.
Hmm.
And I looked into the whole thing, like how to turn your walk-in closet into a studio. Like, I did look into it and decided that if I spent the time, and honestly, I also do not think that people really want to listen to my voice for 5 hours. I would not want to. I prefer more like your voice than if I'm going to listen to it. But I don't
Hmm.
think my voice is the right voice. But I also decided if I tried to do that, like the work and the time, I wouldn't be writing. So it kind of I had to really think about it in terms of what I wanted to do. And I was like, no,
Hmm.
not for me, I don't think.
I'm
Who wants
I'm
to
in.
hear a soprano?
Well, actually, like I have a higher voice compared to a lot of my peers in this genre and certainly in the industry. So that's not an issue. But I've heard many an author say, and many an author I've seen try to narrate their own books, and it's certainly not impossible by any stretch, but it's a
Yeah.
whole different, it's a whole different art form and skill set in and of itself. It's not just reading a book, as you well know.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you took the time and did some research and figured out, wow, that takes a lot of work and a lot of money
Yeah.
too,
What you
because
do, what you do is a lot of work, not just sitting and reading. I mean, you have to you have to prepare the manuscript, think about it, right? Take your own notes for it probably, and then spend the time recording it, and then engineering it and editing it. Like to put out one book, if it's 5 hours long, like how much is the actual commitment for you for like a 5 hour long audiobook?
yeah, that's about 30 hours worth of work, and that's
Yeah,
out of a professional studio at this point, where we've been at it for
yeah,
10 years, and we've produced. I've done 300 myself, but we've produced. I mean, I don't know what the count is, 700, 800, 1,000 somewhere in there. We produced a lot of projects. Took a long time to get there. In the beginning, and I've gone through this with people that are just getting into the industry and explaining to them, and we can relate to this to writing in a second. But to finish my point, when I first started, it took me 10 to 12 hours per finished hour of audio to produce a book. So if you're talking a 5 hour book, at that point, you're looking at 50, 60, perhaps 70 hours of work. And the
yeah.
financial return on that is not there. It's just not. There's no doubt about it. But that's what it took. And it took doing 50 of those before I figured out how to get the time process down. And at this point, we're a system. Tracy, my lovely TNA, and my wife Jody do a lot of my pre-production for me on most of the books where that's possible, and they actually lay out pre-production notes for me in a Cliff's Note version of it, so I can jump in. I've developed a skill to be able to cold read with notes, which is a skill in and of itself, and then
Major.
the
Yeah.
the post-production work. Now that's my specialty because I was an audio engineer. And I'm very good at that. And we've now included my wife in that process. And so there's really 3 people involved to get that down to 5 hours per finished hour. That's what it takes. And that's 3 people that have been doing it for a long time too. So now
Yeah.
with
And that's,
writing, you have the same thing. One chapter of a book, let's say it's 10,000 words. That's the longest chapter I get. But a 10,000 word chapter, that, I mean, how much work is that for you?
I mean, it all depends on the book and how the characters are talking to me, my own ability to sit down and actually write. I mean, there was a 3,000 word the this last drag queen detective book took me probably a week to write 3,000 words because it just wasn't, it just wasn't happening the way I wanted it to happen. Um,
Hmm.
I would sit down, I'd be able to write 400 or 500 words, and then I was just like, yeah, I'm good. I can't do any more today. Like I'm out. And then there's some days that a 10,000 word day is sometimes possible, but not often.
That's a
It
lot
just
of words in a
depends on
day.
kind of what it is, yeah. And also what kind of book I'm writing. I mean, mysteries take, I mean, just the planning stages for a mystery, especially like a cozy mystery where the readers want all the red herrings and all of the clues kind of scattered throughout so they can try to solve the mystery along with the main character. Like just the planning of all of those and where they go so I'm not giving away something else. Like planning one of those books actually kind of takes longer than writing it for me. Um,
Well, yeah,
I've got
it's
books
difficult.
planned months out in advance before I even start really writing one.
Is that how do you structure? I know a mystery is a different thing, but are you a plotter generally with, let's say, just a general normal plot line, as opposed to a mystery? Do you plot or do you pants?
I'm a plotzer.
Hmm.
I outline pretty decently in the beginning, and then halfway through, I'm pantsing because my outline is for shit. So I'm
What
having to,
Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. That's just about how
yeah,
any job goes. Yeah. Um, the process of laying out a mystery like that is always fascinating to me, and especially because I've seen it done fantastically well, and I've seen it done very poorly, where it's this evident the author did not do what you just described.
Yeah.
A good author that can write a good mystery is so far beyond my personal skill set that it's beyond respectable. I just feel like, you know, like good fucking hands off to you, man. Hats off to you, not hands off. That'd be a little more awkward, you know. I appreciate you
Hands
so much.
off.
My hand fell off. That's
You need
awesome.
your hands, John.
Well, actually, not really very much. I bet you I could scroll a PDF with my nose if I had to. It'd be like that Lady in a Tramp thing with the meatball, but I'd be doing it to my screen. We just had a project where we were talking about how some projects take a lot longer than others. I just had a project where I realized the voice of one of the side characters in book 1, who's going to be a main character in book 2 or 3, somewhere in there, and it's first person, so I have to use a different voice to do the narration part of it. Just realized about halfway through recording book 1, I had that voice it wasn't an appropriate voice for the character, and I had to change it.
Yeah.
And it's a decision you make as a narrator. I take great pride in my work, and don't get me wrong, I've fucked up more times than I can count. I've probably fucked up more than I got it right, but I knew I was fucking up this time, and I decided to change it. In a writer's world, now there's a lot of things that you do that are way more difficult than me, but in a writer's world, changing the character name, let's say, is as easy as going into the Word document, searching out all instances of that, and boom, done. To change out a character's voice that had 50 lines up till then is taking me just about 10 hours now. Probably going to land at closer to 15 before it's all said and done, just for that slight of a change.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens in a mystery book, right? Where you've realized, oh shit, either continuity's messed up, or oh shit, this clue isn't there. I mean, how does that fuck you
Yeah.
up?
It happens all the time. I actually, Sailor's Strangulation in Sunscreen was supposed to come out at the end of January, beginning of February, and I had to push it back another 30 days because I wasn't happy with um, the way the clues were falling out. So I had to go back, and it was a long process of just, even though the book was mainly written, I then had to go back and just find all of that and rewrite it in a way that didn't give it away quite so easily.
Mm,
And then add a few others because later on, some stuff, stuff happens as you're writing and you go off plan a little bit, and then you have to kind of go back and be like, okay, now I have to add that into some of the previous chapters because it's now a major point, and in the beginning I didn't think it was going to be crap. So yeah, yeah, I mean, anytime you really make a major change, like to your characters' voices or um, to the plot of a book, it can really set you back for sure.
mm-hmm.
Hours
Yeah.
and hours.
What software are you using? Are you just writing in Word? What are you using?
Oh, yeah. I write in Word.
Yeah.
I've tried. Uh, uh, what is it called? It starts with the S. Um,
Scrivener?
Scrivener. I've tried
Yeah.
it. I prefer Word. It just makes it easier for me because I know it. I don't have to learn it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were talking
I'm
about the
lazy.
365 apps earlier. Once you
Oh,
learn one, though, and you learn it inside and out, I'm pretty good with several of them. I'm pretty good with a couple programs, like to the point where I could teach classes on them. I've learned them inside and out. Um, with Word, let's say you're writing a mystery. This is a clue. As you're writing in the clue, do you have any sort of tagging system where you tag one of your clues in a mystery writing so that you can then search those later on to be able to find them more easily?
uh, no. uh,
Good
should
answer.
I? Probably. Um, I usually keep a notepad um, with me, beside me when I'm writing. That's kind of becomes a Bible for the book, and I have everything on there. Uh, Page numbers, of course, and that's scribbled out, and a new page number on there. But when things change, but yeah, I know I keep a kind of a running tally on a notebook for each of my books that has everything on it that I might need to go back and and find, or if I write something in a chapter and I'm like, I really don't like that, but I've got to move on because I can't spend the next 2 hours trying to figure out how he's going to say this one line because it's just not coming out right. Um, I'll write it down and highlight it in red so I know to come back and find it again and fix the voice.
Yeah, just some sort of one of the crowd just, I got to address this. One of the crowd just said, John's hand looks huge. It's right there, like, hello. That, man, I think I just cracked the code. Me and Jody are going to be using this camera later on tonight. That's,
Oh,
look at this, honey.
it's giant.
His penis is gross. It turns out
It's
Jody's been learning German, and the word for huge in German is gross. So I have a gross penis. It's
it's a romance book gross penis. Massive.
so big. It's so big. Yeah, I'm sorry. The software keys. See, now that's where I would get distracted because I enjoy the technical aspects of what I do. I've built kind of my entire own system with recording, and it works incredibly well. To the point where, like, I've hacked my Surface Pen. I use that with my recording process. I've reprogrammed the buttons so they do exactly what I want them to do with my software. That sort of thing. So if I was a writer, and I'm not, by the way, I cannot do what you guys do. It's amazing to me. But if I was a writer, I'd be putting in all sorts of tags and everything else. Like, okay, so then if I have to change this clue, I can search out all the instances that I used the clue in, and that's where I'd be going with it, which is why I'd probably never write a fucking book. But I'd have a hell of a system to be able to do it.
That just, like, I mean, I know lots of writers who go through all of the planning. I have a planner for this and a planner for that. I track my word counts. Like, lots of writers need that and do that. I do none of that. I I have, like, probably, what, 5 projects right now in various states of being written or edited, and I don't know. I don't see why what that does for me. Um, my system seems to work very very fine by not really having a system. So
It's perfect. Well,
yeah,
and you're
it works
obviously
for me. Yeah,
it.
what you got
In
there?
there was a lot of people, for one, in my insiders crowd, there was a lot of people who were very excited about having you on, and you're very popular. So obviously, what you're doing is working. There's no doubt about it. Speaking of that, are you coming to GRL? Are you doing the GRL thing this year?
Damn. Yep.
Excellent. Now,
Looking forward to
does
it. I love GRL.
it's a ball. It's a blast.
Yeah.
And last year was kind of different because there was a much smaller crowd last year. This year, I expect that things are going to be kind of closer to what it used to be with, a
Yeah.
lot more, which it's going to be a whole different game. But last year was kind of nice. It was a bit more intimate.
Yeah.
The
And that's exactly how I felt. I got to really, it was nice to be able to actually talk more to people instead of feeling like there's so many people you don't get to have such great conversations with. So it was nice,
Mhm.
actually. It was nice having a smaller GRL for a change.
Yeah. Are you doing the Miski charm thing again this year?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am.
I'm debating. I got in trouble with that because sorry, I keep on holding my hand up to the camera, and now I'm noticing in
What
myself
did you
it's a
do?
huge hand. It's a no.
John,
See,
stop it.
so I didn't have like an author table because I'm not a fucking author, and I'm John Solo. My job is to be. If this was a medieval time, I would be like a jester. Okay, that's what I do. I'm just the roaming. I make people laugh. That's my job. So I was kind of wandering around in that room where all the charms were out, and Misky had a line of about 4,000 people up to her little table, and I had my charms, and I was like, well, I don't fucking have a table. What do I do? So I stood in the middle of the room for a little while, and I was like, okay, I've tap danced once. What do I do next? So I passed out what I could. I stood outside the room after that, and then I got bored and left. That's how I did it. And then So Misky comes on the show at GRL and she was like, John, we had to make a John Solo policy because of you. Um, so I fucked it up is what I did. So I'm debating. I mean, it was a good time and all that. But yeah, maybe I'm gonna have to hang out at somebody's table. Do you get a table for that? Have you got a table? Can I sit at your table?
Yeah. Yeah, come over to my table, John.
Perfect. I will come out and hang out at yours. Then maybe people will know who the hell I am. This has been a blast, by the way. You've been, as always, a wonderful guest.
It's
And
always fun. Thank you.
we managed not to get as rude and crude as I was. We did talk about drippy dicks and shit, but other than that, it was.
Well, I had a few drinks, I think, before our GRL interview. So, so it's, yeah.
Dude, you were fantastic.
Because when Misky pulled me up to do it, like I was sitting in the bar. So.
As you should do. You're a GRL, man. Have a good time. Dude, you were a ball at GRL. You were great here today too. But that was a shock because I don't know that we'd ever, if we had met, it had just been very briefly. I don't remember ever sitting down and talking to you before. And you were, it was a great surprise to say the least. It was a lot of fun.
Why, thank you.
Yep. Now, somebody suggested, no, I'm not going to do that to Trace. Somebody suggested that I have Trace hand out my charms. That woman works so hard for so little. Here, now, have everybody in the world come up and approach you. No, I don't think I'm going to do that to her. But anyways, thanks for coming on.
People want to get the charm from you too. So
I don't know about that. So during the signing, I went over to Patty Logan's table and sat there with her for a little while. And people were coming up, and I've narrated quite a few of Patty's books over the years, and people were coming up to her table to get their signed books, and you know the way those tables work. And I'm sitting there, and Patty, as she's giving out a book that I had narrated, said, "Oh, and you could have John Solo sign it too. He narrated the book." And the lady was like, "No, nah." Like, so pretty soon.
No.
I took that as a personal challenge. So pretty soon after that, everybody coming up, I'm trying to talk them into letting me sign their books. I mean, I'm like, oh, and I could sign it too. I signed better than her. Look at it. And I was trying to sell it after a little while. I offered some lady $1 to let me sign her book. It was fucking awesome. But anyways.
Well, did you sign books?
I did. I signed a few of them. See, the other thing too is I don't sign books normal. Some people, they got like this, you know, the way girls in 4th grade, their writing looked with the bubbly cursive things.
Yeah.
Some people have those kinds of signatures, right? And they've been practicing it for years. And there's like a flourish at the end of it. They sign and there's like that. And I don't have anything like what I do normally is I make a joke each time. So a good example is one of my favorite people, Kashana Shaw. I love Kashana to death. Kashana sent me in the mail a stack of books to sign. And I got them. So I did things like I wrote out my grocery list in one of them. I was giving like sex advice and another. It was like all that. That's what I do for signatures. Sometimes I sign Nick J. Russo instead of my own name. Every time I do that shit. And maybe the word's gotten around. I don't know. But anyways.
That's hilarious, actually.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man.
I have the handwriting of a serial killer, so it's like, or a doctor. Like if I signed your book, you could probably take that page into the pharmacy and get some kind of prescription.
give me some pain pills now.
That's right. My doctor said. No.
Man, I missed some comments here because we were joking around. So if you could, at some point, if you could get on the comments part of this and answer some questions, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. I will send you the YouTube link to this as well if you want to put it in your group or give it to your mom or that sort of thing after this. And I do appreciate you coming on. Have fun, everybody. I will see you on, tomorrow in Discord, but then on Friday. So there you go. Have fun. See you later. Wave.